Do I have an amazing and exciting video for you today? I have the brand new Cora Disc, and it has this. Period Nirvana. Welcome to Period Nirvana, the internet's home for menstrual cup and menstrual disc information. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe. I'm your host here in this weird part of the internet. Period Nirvana is my educational outlet and the home of the Period Nirvana Quiz that helps you find the perfect menstrual cup or disc for you. And if you're shopping for period products, be sure to check out my store, Period.Shop, where we curate all of the best brands in one place. Now let's get to the very exciting video I have planned for you today. The brand Cora is a really well-known period care company, and they do offer things that are disposable and reusable. They first came out with the reusable option, the Cora Cup, and that was a few years ago. You can find that on shelves at Target, but they also sell organic tampons and liners and even some sort of pain relief products. Now they've entered into this burgeoning world of reusable menstrual discs with their Cora Disc. I wore gray to match. For the uninitiated, let me give you a quick rundown of what a menstrual disc is. It looks like this. It looks basically like a round circle or an oval. You squeeze it long ways to insert. The open part of the bowl faces up towards you. Some discs have a directional insertion. Cora would be one of those because of one of the features. While squeezing, you insert bowl part facing up. It goes and tucks behind the cervix, and the front tucks up against the pubic bone. And it sits and collects the blood from the cervix, and it has more space because of the design of this product. It's a flat fit, so there is room for penetrative intercourse, and it's also suction free, which is good for people who have an IUD who might want a little extra peace of mind compared to menstrual cups that do create a suction. Unfortunately, the Cora Disc doesn't fit super great into my demo model, but that is just a quick video. I have a full video on discs on my YouTube channel already. One thing about menstrual discs that is a downside is that they tend to be a little messier to remove and a little more difficult to grasp, and that is something that Cora has attempted to solve with their new product. So let's get started with a quick little rundown of the packaging, and then we'll go over the product, and then I'll tell you how it worked for me. The Cora Disc does come in this metal tube. It has a clear window on the top, so if you want to peek in and see the product, you can on a shelf. One of the things that Cora is known for is supporting a lot of different charities with their sales, so they'll give you some information about that on the tubing. One thing that I look for when I'm buying products to bring in new brands to Period.Shop is packaging, because I want as minimal packaging as possible, as little waste as possible. Even though this isn't something you can just throw in your recycling bin, it is upcyclable. So you can actually peel the label off, and it says right on there to use as a reusable storage case, so that's really nice. I feel like I go back and forth on Cora and their use of inclusive verbiage. They sometimes, will say good for women or whatever, and then on the packaging itself it says designed to fit most bodies comfortably, which is an inclusive way of saying it instead of most women's body or to fit most women. So I feel like there's like some effort, but they're not fully embracing inclusive verbiage. Of course, I prefer when brands are just very inclusive across the board, but it seems like they're sort of hit or miss. Now it's time for the disc, and I did try to match it. They say it's black on the packaging, but to me it looks gray. Even the thickest part of the rim, where there's less light that goes through, is still gray. The catch part, which is the body, the part that catches the blood, is more translucent and much grayer than the rim. Here are the measurements. It is 65 millimeters in diameter and round, and it holds 47.5 milliliters in capacity, which is a very respectable amount. It is way more than most size 2 menstrual cups or size large menstrual cups, which peak at around 30. It does not hold the most of any menstrual disc by any stretch, but it's definitely very much a high capacity option. As I teased in the opener, there is something about the Cora Disc that makes it different than most discs on the market, and that is this. This is a little tiny place for your finger, and when you are removing the disc, you have a way to hook it and remove it in a way that is far easier and for most people will likely be doable with one finger. One of the things that a lot of menstrual disc companies have said in the past will, say hook the rim and pull it down. Never once has that worked for me for any brand. And this product has given you what they call a finger width grip or finger width something. And it is exactly a finger width. And you just use that to hook this portion of the rim and drag it out of your body. One thing I will say about this design is the removal it works. It definitely gave me the easiest way to get it out of other discs I've tried so far, but it is a substantially thick rim. So it does have a firmer rim than most other discs. In fact, I'm gonna say it's the firmest, but it's not much firmer than Luma. I say it's the firmest in conjunction with it being also a thick rim, which Luma is not. So it has more depth to it, and it is thick and firm. It's still not as firm as the Firmness menstrual cup, if that gives you some gauge of firmness. I would say it's at the high end of average firm, which is where I would place Luma as well. But what that means is because it is a thick rim, it does have more meat to it. I would call it beefy. And so when you are inserting the disc, I found it more difficult. Handle goes in last. So you put it in facing up, this goes in last. I find it's hard to keep it folded while inserting it because the rim is so meaty. Ugh. That made a weird into place, but it's good. All good. Cora says that the finger width grip makes insertion and removal easier. I would disagree. I say that it definitely makes removal easier, but it actually made insertion more of a process for me than a Luma or a Nixit. It was more difficult for me to push it into place because it's such a deep rim and because you're actually missing some stuff and you only have kind of this ledge to hook your finger on to push. Instead of the full product because there's kind of a piece missing. I was able to try this for my period and I'll give you a clip of how some of that went, but really everything went great. It didn't leak for me at all, which I expected because discs just so nicely work for me.
Good morning. So the good news is that this disc does auto dump, and that can make removal less messy because when you pull the disc out, it has less in it. So I'm gonna remove this disc on my period for the first time. I put it in last night, and it definitely dumped a good bit this morning. So hopefully it's less messy. Okay. So it's not mess free. It's like washing spoons, so be careful.
I'm really happy with the product. I think that they have taken one of the pain points of what a lot of disc users find when it comes to removal, and they have addressed it in a way that gives people, an easier access. It does take a little bit of the capacity because it has part of the catch, which is what's catching the period blood out. It could have a little bit more capacity, but I don't think for the average person that's going to be an issue because, again, as I stated before, it has a higher capacity than almost all menstrual cups. Another part of the removal is mess, and any menstrual cup, Cora included, is going to be what is most people call a blood drawer. When you pull it out, so kind of imagine that you are hooking it's really like this, right? So you pull it out and down. You want to keep it upright as you pull to keep as much of the mess in as possible instead of just directly pulling it out and letting it spill all over your hand. That can take some practice, but this little thing, it helps in that you don't have to pinch the disc, which I find gets blood all over my thumb for something like Nixit or Luma because, like I said, I've never been able to hook the rim on another disc. So you really do have some mess aversion, but it is just still a messier product. In fact, when I remove my discs, there's blood on the bottom and there's blood all around it.
All right, one more day trying the disc, but this time camping.
messier than last time, I guess heavier. So I don't know that this is going to fix the mess problem, but it does make it easier to remove it, which is a win for most people, especially someone who might be disc averse. If you're someone like me who actually pays attention to all of these menstrual product brands, you might have noticed that a few weeks ago, or maybe even a month ago, another brand came out called Moonthlies. This is a bit of a tangent for me, so if you don't want any of this like menstrual cup industry information, feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter. But I did want to address it because it is a very similar design. Moonthlies has two sizes, so they have a small and a large, and they came up essentially at the same exact time. We don't know who came up with the idea technically first, because they're both kind of working on it behind the scenes in their own little worlds, but they came out with the same exact kind of concept, and it is a removal ledge. But the difference is Cora did a version that really works. So props to Moonthlies for thinking of the design, but the execution just wasn't there for me. There's not really enough space to get your finger in there. It's very minimal space. And my finger just literally slips and has nothing. In fact, what's kind of hilarious is that when I was trying the Moonthlies and I was talking to my husband about it, because I'm all about disc design and design innovations, and I said, if only they had more space for the finger and had tilted it inward, it would work. You would have the space and the leverage you need to pull it out. Mine would just slip, literally like this. It wouldn't grab it, and I'd have to pinch it. And then I think 2 weeks later, I got this in the mail, and it was exactly it. It tilts inward, and you have a whole finger's room to move it, and it works. Now, I don't think either one of these came up with the concept, and I'll tell you why. This is a Caya birth control diaphragm. And what the Caya is essentially what a menstrual disc is, except this is meant to prevent pregnancy, and the period disc is meant to hold your period blood. Quick little note that you cannot use something like a menstrual disc to prevent pregnancy. These are fitted to you by a care provider, and of course you also need to use spermicide with it. But I'll show you quickly, the Caya has a finger grip. It is exactly the concept, but a different execution. So the fact that these two brands came out with this design is not a shock to me. In fact, I've been wondering when a disc would do something like the Caya. It's exactly the same thought process. And so if it works for the Caya, it's going to work for a period disc. Both of these decided to, like, instead of having the ledge, build it into the round disc because we want a nice round shape to seal and catch the menstrual blood as well as you can. And for me, that's perfect. So just wanted to point out that I don't think there's any chance that one of the brands copied another, not to mention they're made in different manufacturing facilities. It's just one of those things where there's a natural progression in ideas and idea making where we're starting to see more people like menstrual discs, and now more people are saying what they don't like about menstrual discs. And of course, one of those things is removal. So yeah, we've got people who really thought about the anatomy in Caya, medical professionals who designed this, and we have now 2 discs that have so far taken that design and changed it and made it work for period discs. So I still love the Cora disc. I think the Moonthlies disc had a really cool streamlined idea, but they didn't get there. So the disc itself worked fine for me, but this is not a Moonthlies review. This is a Cora review. So out of that tangent and back on target. For the actual comfort of the disc while it was in my body, there's not a lot to say because I am just apparently built for reusable silicone discs. I've had an almost perfect record using menstrual discs in terms of comfort and success with them not leaking. And the same was true for Cora. It has 100% been leak-free and very comfortable. So this is my update with the Cora from camping. And overall, it's been a really leak-proof experience and a very easy period. I think that the only thing I've slightly struggled with, well, actually two things. One is inserting because the rim is thicker, and then the other thing is the removing when the removal thing goes to the side, and I have to kind of dig to the side, pull it, and then down. And that's it. Here's the bathroom situation. And if anyone's ever camping with discs or cups, I definitely recommend trying to get the blood right over this hole. Otherwise, you have to flush a million times to get it off the bowl. The thing about discs is that they're almost one size fits all. They're not entirely. There is a case for different size diameters, but most people's bodies respond well to these 65, 70, whatever, 72 millimeter disc, because that area below the cervix called the vaginal fornix is kind of a equal opportunity sized area. Now I'm going to show you some of the other discs and how they compare side by side to Cora, because everyone loves this. And if you don't, you could skip ahead. Starting with the Flex, which is the disposable option, and it's exactly identical to the Soft Cup. Here is the Flex, and here is the Cora. This is the Ziggy at 76 millimeters wide at the longest, well, we'll say 76 at the longest portion because it's an oval. It is the largest menstrual disc. Cora is definitely a firmer rim than the Ziggy. And of course, the Ziggy does hold more if you need like a ton of capacity. Next is Nixit. It's one of my favorites. It's a really, really soft, flexible rim and a very, very gentle, pedal soft and thin silicone catch. It is definitely a different firmness. Cora is, of course, way firmer. It has a deeper, harder rim. And of course, the Cora holds less, and it has the removal system. Luma High. Luma sizes by their cervix height. So if you have a high cervix, Luma suggests this one. And here is the Cora. Luma does have a wider diameter. The Luma does have another option for removal, which is this string to pull it out. Luma Medium, which is a closer diameter size match to the Cora. Luma Short, big difference there. Moonthlies Large, and this does look firmer than it is, but it's also very thick and deep and sharp. So here we go. They both have that removal system. And then this is the Moonthlies Small and the Cora. So it's hard in video, but if you want all of the diameters and the capacities of all of these menstrual discs, you can find them on the Period Nirvana menstrual cup and disc comparison chart all in one place, and you can sort them. And if you search the word disc, you'll just get a list of all the discs, so it's really easy. I think this is a really, really solid effort from Cora in making discs a little more accessible and easier to use. And as a huge disc fan, this is something I'm excited about. I'm, of course, going to be carrying it on Period.Shop, so you can find it and purchase it there. There are, there's a disc for everyone, just like there's a menstrual cup for everyone. I found it a little bit firmer than some of the other discs, but not in a good way. It just made it a little more cumbersome to insert and use. So I don't know if I'm going to say this is my favorite disc, because the other ones, Nixit and Luma, just work so well for me. But the removal system is a definite bonus. When you're new to discs, this is definitely like a really great introduction to getting it out and not having slippage and gripping issues that you might have with some of the other discs. If you are someone who has a very high cervix, this might not be the best disc for you because it is a narrower diameter and it might be hard to reach because this doesn't give you anything to grab like the Luma string that you can actually access to find it. Now, if you watch this video and you were like, oh my God, I need this disc, do me a favor and shop small and purchase from Period.Shop. If I was part of your decision making, please support this small business that does a ton of free educational content instead of something like Amazon or Target. Hey, they have free shipping and Prime shipping or whatever, but Period.Shop does have free shipping over $35, and we do ship really fast within the U.S. Monday through Friday is when we pack and ship orders. So none of our shippers are peeing in bottles. I can promise you that. And of course, a quick little fun tidbit for anyone who does enjoy buying from and supporting small businesses. Since I started Period.Shop, there's a cute thing that happens in my house where every time my phone, when my ringer is on, makes a sale, because I have the app, it goes, and every time that happens when my kids are here, which is always, because, you know, pandemic, they'll go, sale! So you'll hear, and then you'll hear sale from the kids around the house. So it is true what they say, when you support a small business, someone does a happy dance. So that's me. If you have any thoughts on discs, or you've tried the Cora and you want to share your experience, please leave those in the comments. And of course, subscribe for any new menstrual cup and disc content. I have a community where you can join and talk with other people about products like this and get help. That's Period Nirvana Community on Facebook. And follow me on Instagram and on TikTok, where I share short educational videos at Period Nirvana. Thanks so much for being here. I just wanted to quickly say at the very end, if you're still here, that I'm like really just so grateful to be filming today and feeling better after being taken out for a month. And it's one of those things where you just don't know how good it is to be healthy until you're not. Turns out that I have Crohn's disease. So that is a new battle that I'll be fighting apparently forever. And it just feels really great to like work and do stuff and be here. So never taking my health for granted again after a really, really miserable, scary month and not knowing what was wrong. So yeah, that's it. Bye. See you in the next video. Thank you. Remind Fletcher to get the mail for me. Ren. I can't talk so long. Makes insertion and remover eat. Their discs like Nixit. I think no one should ever say Nixit and Ziggy next to each other.